Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Hope you all are doing good and I'm back with a finance video. And in today's video I'm going to discuss the deferred revenue. First of all, I'll start with introduction, then I'll discuss accounting treatment of deferred revenue, then finally some questions that interviewer can ask you, or some scenario based questions. So this concept is not only important for FP&A profile people but for F&A profile as well, because interviewers are keep on asking questions on that concept. It could be direct one or it could be some scenario type of questions. So let's start the video. If a company receives any cash payments for any products or services that are to be delivered or performed in the future, so that part of revenue will be considered as a deferred revenue and it is an unearned revenue, and that deferred revenue will be recognized once the goods or services will be delivered to the customer and customer has accepted the same. So that will be recognized as a revenue in that particular month or over a period of time, depends on the contract with the clients. And till then we will consider the amount of deferred revenue as a liability, and that will lies in the balance sheet. So it will be easy for you to get some better understanding once I'll cover some examples in upcoming slides. How to record deferred revenue, or what will be the journal entry or accounting treatment for deferred revenue. As I said, we are receiving some amount in advance for goods or services. So once we receive the amount, so our bank account will increase, so we will debit the bank account, and we are creating a liability simultaneously. So for creating a liability we have to do the credit, so we are crediting deferred revenue and that will fall in the liability side of the company's balance sheet. So finally the accounting entry will be bank account debit to deferred revenue as I shown on the screen. Let's start the questions on deferred revenue that an interviewer can ask you. So very frequent question or very common question is if the deferred revenue is a part of liability or assets, and why. So as I explained in the last two slides, deferred revenue is a part of liability because it reflects the revenue that has not been earned, and it represents the goods or services that are owed to a customer, and we will recognize the amount once the goods are accepted by customer or we have delivered the services or goods to the customer. So it depends on the contracts. Until then we will consider it as a liability because that not belongs to us. Another question on deferred revenue as a liability can be like, keeping deferred revenue for long term is good or bad, and why. So as I said, deferred revenue is a part of liability and that belongs to customer and not to the company, and customer can be asked anytime to refund that amount if he refused to accept the goods or services in the future. So that can be refunded to the customer. So keeping deferred revenue for long is not good as it's a part of liability and not a recognized revenue. So I believe keeping deferred revenue as a long is not a very good for the company prospect. So interviewer can also ask you some real life scenario on deferred revenue. Like he can ask you, have you worked on any deferred revenue in your real life, or have you done any accounting treatment for deferred revenue in your work profile. So I have a brief example to explain. If you like that, then you can also explain the same. So you can say yes, when there is any time lag between the invoice payment that we are receiving from customer and the month end close date, so we have to defer the revenue. Like the example given on the screen, you can say we have received the payment of invoice in advance, let's say on 15th of September, and services of such invoice payments will be delivered from period 15th of September to 15th of October, and our month end get closed on the last day of the month, so that will be like 30th September. So revenue for that September period would be recognized from 15th of September to 30th of September for that particular invoice, and from 1st October to 15th of October that amount will be deferred to the October month. So that 15 days of revenue will be recognized in the September month, and the balance from 1st to 15th of October will be deferred and will be considered as a current liability, and we will recognize the same in October if the goods or services will be delivered for the same. Next question on deferred revenue can be, is deferred revenue a part of current liability or a long-term liability? The answer would be deferred revenue account is normally considered as a current liability in the company's balance sheet, but it can be classified as a long term if the performance of such amount would be performed in more than 12 or more than 18 or 24 months. So that will be considered as a long term liability in the company's balance sheet. So last question is of Amazon. If you have watched my earlier videos, specifically FP&A interview based questions, I have mentioned a question like Amazon sold goods with 7 days returning policy. How will you recognize the revenue on the day of sale or after completion of 7 days? So for answering this question, first of all, I want to explain that when we can recognize the revenue. So there are 5 points that needs to be fulfilled as per IFRS 15, ASC 605 and AS 9, and I have mentioned the points on the screen, like identify the contract with your customer, identify your performance obligations, determine your transaction price, allocate the transaction price to the performance obligations in the contract, recognize revenue when your business satisfies a performance obligation. So in the given case, Amazon has sold the goods to the customer and customer has paid the consideration in return, and goods has been transferred with the risk and reward to the customer. So ideally we can say goods has been sold and we need to recognize the revenue for that particular month. But IFRS 15 says if there is a sale with the return policy, so as per the contract, goods can be returned by the customer within 7 days of the sale. So ideally all revenue should not be recognized, but part of that revenue will be considered as a deferred revenue. So the point comes in, what amount should be considered as a deferred revenue. So for calculating that part of deferred revenue, it depends on the products or services that we are delivering to the customer, and amount to be recognized as a deferred revenue can be calculated on the probability of returning such goods and services in the past. So company can check the previous trends or the past trends and check the probability of returning, so they can take that proportion of the amount as a deferred revenue. And once the customer has accepted the goods after 7 days, so they will record that part of deferred revenue as a revenue. So this should be the answer to the best of my knowledge, and the points I read out in IFRS 15 and ASC 605. You can also go through such IFRS and ASCs, and if you find some better points on this question, so you can add that as well. And even I will appreciate if you mention that answers in the comment box as well, as our accounting treatments are based on assumptions, and sometimes accounting treatment from company to company varies as well. So this is the best that I can give or I can answer on this scenario question. And at last, I want to give a big thanks to the people who reached me out and pinged me on Instagram for direct chit chat, and mentioned some comments in the comment box for asking some questions or for some general queries. Thank you so much for your support. Keep supporting, and people who are watching this video for the first time, please subscribe the channel, like my videos, share it with your friends, and do watch my other videos. I have uploaded FP&A videos, and at last of this video, in last 5 seconds, you will get the playlist of all the FP&A videos. You can click on that and watch all the videos. And please keep supporting, keep watching the channel. And if you want to reach me out directly, you can ping me on Instagram. The ID is mentioned on the screen. So thank you so much guys. We will meet soon with the new FP&A video. Till then, bye bye, take care.